Good morning. Thank you. I'm going to move very quickly, hopefully. I have not been too frequently compared to an onrushing train, but I will try and live up to the accusation. Um, as you recall from yesterday, we had extended databases, that was yesterday, and we had continuous quality improvement, which is where VPS spun off. It spun off from really a Steve Pond idea about 230 years ago, when there was the PCCC, Pediatric Data Collaborative, that probably very few people in this room remember, but was actually an attempt at prospective data collection for research and quality improvement. That finally got going when the VPICU ran into these two guys who are present, and the PICU focus groups at NACRI, and we started helping them collect data to back up their quality improvement projects and their research projects. And we originated from all of those places. So what do you want to know when you're talking about quality or anything else? Is your ICU good enough? Of course, Peter's ICU is good enough, whichever one he happens to be at. How do you know, though? My ICU is the best ICU. Everybody in the room said that. Every ICU we've been to is the best ICU. My patients are sicker than the other ICUs. That's why my mortality rate's higher. Half of all the ICUs are below average, for a real fact. I hate to break this to you in the room. And in fact, only 10% of the ICUs are, well, in the top 10%. And Murray Pollock said that was the whole point of PRISM. Only people use it to prove they were in the top 10%. Can my ICU improve? You all know your ICU can improve. And is it the best possibly it can be? And how do you measure ICU quality? Well, obviously, you need data, and you need a lot of data, and you need good data. So VPS is how many people are in VPS here? It's over half, I guess. The largest national collaborative for improvement of pediatric critical care, developed for and by pediatric intensivists and critical care specialists, nurses, etc., and a web-based system for the prospective collection of pediatric data retrospectively analyzed. That's the growth of our data set. We're just about to top 2 million patients, and those are a scattering of the ICUs in Canada and even in the Middle East. But data isn't enough. The mission of VPS is to improve critical care and outcomes for children and their families through collaborative high-quality data management. And this is the part for today, and actionable comparative reports. There's a whole ton of comparative reports. There's stuff you can get. There's stuff you can compare. You get a big annual report. Jerry yesterday talked about maybe what could be called cluster trials, but he also talked about improving quality. And in his talk, he mentioned he needed a few things to really do a big multi-center quality improvement project. And you need a structure that everybody understands. You need monitoring. You need severity of illness adjustment somehow. You need management for all of that. How do you distribute your software and your hardware and your data and all of that stuff? You need data engineers as well. A help desk so all the sites who are participating can get answers. Oversight by intensivists, data quality assurance, your data has to be excellent. Statisticians, anomaly detection, sales and recruitment, and what I call a business office, but somebody has to run the show. And somebody has to, none of this stuff is free. All of that exists in VPS. And that provides a distribution channel for things we develop in critical care. So I'm not going to go through this slide. This is what we have, all of those things mentioned on that slide, which means if you want to set up a project, all of that infrastructure exists. We have advisory groups. We have a VPS clinical team, which is 6 PICU intensivists who meet bi-monthly to look at the data, what we need to do, what data elements we're using. Of course, all of us in the room, we would like hundreds of more, thousands of more data elements than VPS currently collects. It's the constant battle between the expensive collection and the time of collection and what you can actually get reliably. Your data coordinators and data aggregators, because all of this is manual, will riot if you get too carried away. So that already exists, web-based registry with high fidelity reporting. And on that data over the years, over 200 publications have occurred based on that data. And there have been dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of quality improvement projects in multiple ICUs across the country. I want to, and it's focused on data quality. The goal was always research level data. It's sad to say that research level data is better than the data we base our daily clinical judgments on, because we really insist that it's accurate, well collected, clean for making these decisions. So we have all of our data aggregators are trained. They all have to pass inter-rater reliability tests, not just to begin collecting data, but regularly throughout the course of the year as well. And I think our acceptable number is 92% IRR. It might be 95 actually, but it's 95, thank you, percent. Otherwise, your data doesn't get admitted to the database. Quarterly reviews of IRR, automated front-end data validations, all automated to make sure, find out range values that are silly. And if there are any problems with the data, we go back to the source and ask for corrections. So it's very high-level quality data. And the potential I want to talk about today, that was a very quick bird's eye view, is multi-unit studies or QI projects. We have an infrastructure of constant data collection on every admission to the ICU. We could be doing more research here. And let's take an example from Sapna's talk yesterday. We have wonderful early liberation bundles, and we're sure they work. And we'd like to know if they work in 10 or 20 or 30 ICUs. We have 120 ICUs. Take the example of don't do anything, keep collecting your VPS data. However, find 10 ICUs or 20 that want to adopt all of those bundles and watch them for a year. 10 ICUs will give you, I suppose over a year, well, let's make it 20 because we have the control group too. So we have 20,000 patients who are admitted, and already the data, the pre-data exists, the post-data will exist, and the comparative group, which you could match for type of unit, academic unit. All of the reports are peer-related. You can also make sure you have an appropriate mixture of patients and DEI considerations, et cetera. So take 10 units and match your peer groups and make your intervention. Institute a plan and start to deploy the bundles. And you have an automatic experiment where you can see if you have an impact on length of stay, length of mechanical ventilation, outcomes, take your pick. All that stuff is automatically collected. And think of a lot of interventions that we could set up as a group to start answering some of these questions in a test bed that's already collecting data. And for the purposes of this study, we could we could add other data elements. So this I think was one of the purposes of setting up VPS and has not been used. So measure it in a year or track it quarterly for outcomes, and then replan what you're going to do next. The bundle didn't work in 3 ICUs, but did work in 7. What's the difference there? There's a lot of other things to do. Anyway, that's an automatic PDSA cycle ready for you to walk into, and the system's already there. You don't need to, if you're in VPS, you don't have to hire data collectors, you don't have to set up software, it exists. So I think I said that already. So you can control chart anything you like, that's automated in the system. And I think I mentioned this already, everything is severity of illness adjusted in severity algorithms from PICU to PICSIN, which is a cardiac specific one, et cetera. These are some quality projects that have already been done, but they're single unit stuff. They could be, I really would love to see even a change in ventilation induced. And I think those experiments probably, if we have equipoise, I don't think you need consent for 10 units deciding this is what they're going to do. And 10 units don't even need to know they're the controls. And I just wanted to mention it's a fairly responsive system. I think in March 2020, we went live with a COVID dashboard, which we opened up to the whole country, not just the VPS members, and a VPS listserv, which had thousands of hits. In fact, I enjoyed reading what everybody was doing around the country. There was this huge discussion about what are we going to do as this hit all the pediatric ICUs. And we provided this in, well, it was a couple weeks of fast work and discussion involving everybody in VPS, but we got it up and running for the community, and followed the early time of the epidemic. We have VPS collaboratives. Probably the biggest one is California, as many of you know, and California ICUs are required to belong to VPS. We hoped and continue to hope that with that many ICUs in one place, that quality improvement projects could get shared and research projects could get done. I'm not as optimistic or I'm not as happy with what's our success so far. It takes a long, as all of you will know, it takes a long time to run a collaborative network. There are others in the works. And here are VPS problems. Collecting that data is expensive. Now, joining VPS is a few tens of thousands of dollars, but you have to have a data collector who's usually an RN, and they have gotten much more expensive, as all of you know. If you need 1.5 data collectors, you could be spending $150,000 to $200,000 a year just entering data in VPS. Across the country, they're spending probably around $20 million a year. I mention that because this is where I'll move towards the PDC. That's data collection, capture, the value of which perhaps could be spared. That's a year. If we could spend $20 million to automate data collection and maintain quality just once, it'd be a savings year on year on year on year. It's also timeliness. If we could automate data aggregation, collecting it faster would help our turnaround time. Our turnaround time is quarterly now. It'd be nice if you could walk in and see how your ICU is performing in comparison day by day. And as we were talking, it's not granular enough. VPS has data that the PDC doesn't collect, but it doesn't have all the physiology and pharmacology and everything else that we are extracting from EHRs. So those are big problems. And the major problem is the data aggregation. So daily or more frequent uploads of EHR data could be helpful. We are, by the way, and Alex is hiding in the back room, who is helping. This is our lead engineer who is helping build our fire application to work off anybody that takes fire for VPS to help somewhat. But the quality of data, there's a lot of individual judgment in the data aggregation. There will still probably need to be some, and it's why bringing VPS and PDC together helps. But we built the data in VPS 20 years ago and built it to answer specific questions. I think we need to turn this around and maybe look at the PDC with fairly good data aggregation, look at the PDC data and see if we can answer similar quality questions and research questions there with people participating with automated data uploads. We could cycle that faster. Just need to think about what data is available instead of the question, here's the answer, instead of the usual way we do research, what answer am I looking for, what data do I need to answer it? We need to go to the data way. Here's the data I have, what questions can we answer? So I'm not going to talk about any of that. I'm going to say thank you. I hope I got us back on schedule.